You might hear some noise of water on the hull behind me. That's because we are actually enjoying one of these days that I'm talking about in this particular podcast. There are days when everything seems to be going beautifully. It's perfect weather, the wind is perfect, the boat is behaving perfectly, the place you're going is in the perfect direction with the wind direction and the sea state. There's a term we choose to apply for that, and we've actually been able to employ it an awful lot during our time sailing in the Tuamotos. Hi, I'm Nico Waters, and welcome to the Boat Galley Podcast. I'm talking about those really amazing days. We call them pas de suckage. Today's episode of the Boat Galley Podcast is sponsored by Roam Devices. Their Marine Monitor is a premium boat monitoring system that allows you to stay informed with what's happening on your boat while you're ashore for just $349 and $5 a month. Never be caught off guard by a failing battery or burnt-out bilge pump. Your boat will text you as soon as anything starts going wrong. The Roam Devices app shows a real-time view of your boat status and location with an awesome built-in remote anchor alarm. RoamDevices.com. Never worry about your boat from afar again. Use coupon code BOATGALLEY for an exclusive 5% discount. People talk about cruising where the highs are super high and the lows are super low. And I will say that once we left the boatyard, we've had way more of the super high than the super low. We call those the this sucks ones. Once we left the boatyard, that is, because when we were in the boatyard, there were an awful lot of, oh my god, this day is terrible. But lately, we call them pas de suckage. Those glorious pinch-me moments that just feel like they need to be acknowledged in some understated way. And there have been, as I just mentioned, so many of them. There's sunsets. There's finding cool shells or even a glass fishing float. There's sunrises, because we've actually had way more really good sunrises than really good sunsets. The sunsets have not been great. I'm going to tell you, they have not been great. Lately, though, most of these pas de suckage moments, they've come when we're sailing inside these lagoons. This was not something that we had expected when we heard about being in the Tuamotos. And first of all, neither one of us truly comprehended the scale of these atolls. Knowing that it's 10 miles from Pass to Anchorage in Amano, or 30 miles from one end to the other in Makemo or Fakarava is one thing intellectually, but experiencing it, it's a totally different ballgame. Each one of these individual atolls, at least the ones not including Fakarava, could be considered its own cruising grounds. You could sail from Anchorage to Anchorage depending on the weather and just enjoy yourself tremendously. But the other aspect of being in the Tuamotos that we were not quite expecting is how great the sailing is inside these lagoons. There are some caveats, the usual caveats of sail when the sun is high and behind you. Your eyes are your first navigation tools. Don't blindly trust the weather forecast. All of those apply to this conversation around how great the sailing is inside the lagoons. And it is so surprising to us how few boats seem to travel under sail inside the atolls. We've seen boats on perfect days when they're heading downwind and they don't have a single scrap of sail out in the direction that they're going. I guess the bommies are concerning, bommies being the coral heads that aren't always well charted. They're definitely sprinkled in odd places in the lagoons, but they're generally visible as long as the sun is high and behind you. Maybe it's too much work to deploy the sails for just a couple of hours of travel time. There are certainly bonuses of small boat sailing, and easily handled sails is one of them. We actually timed the amount of time it took us to set the code 0 up from walking down below to dig it out of the forepeak to actually flying it. And it was 10 minutes. Easily handled sails, definitely one of the joys and perks of small boat sailing. We've tacked our way across lagoons in 10 knots of wind. We actually left the anchorage this morning with a 30-mile sail ahead of us, knowing we were going to be super close hauled, if not having to tack, and we have had to bang a couple of tacks already. We have experienced blissful beam reaches, where the boat is routinely hitting 7 knots of speed, even towing a dinghy. We've sailed wing on wing down the coast with only the sound of the hull through the water as our audible companion. The water inside the lagoons is usually flat calm. None of that ocean swell that we find when we venture outside of a pass to travel in between the atolls, and it is this flat water with little obstruction to the wind coming over flat land that makes this lagoon sailing so incredibly special. And it is a very, very rare sail in the lagoon that doesn't have us just grinning at each other. Pas de suckage, indeed. I can't wait to share an anchorage with you when we toast to each other's pas de suckage days and talk about just how incredibly lucky we are to be able to live such an unbelievably rewarding lifestyle. Thank you so much for listening to the Boat Galley podcast. If you came by the booth during the time that Carolyn and crew were there at the Annapolis Boat Show, thank you so much. I'm sorry I wasn't there. We love hearing from our listeners. We love it when you share us with your friends. We love it when you leave us a 5-star review, because it does help other sailors find us. The Boat Galley is all about making boat life better so that you too can have more of these pas de suckage moments. Have the most spectacular week.